Today I'm going to cook for the best fishmonger in London. Every day George gets up at the crack of dawn and goes to the fish market so he can get all his stuff. Then he goes and serves in the shop all day to his customers. Then he goes to the restaurant and cooks a whole shift at night. Does the man ever get any sleep? So today I'm going to give George a day off. He's going to get all his friends and family to come round and we're going to have a lovely Mauritian-style meal. Should be great.
Journey with me to the heart. Can't you see that this is just the start?
Hello, George.
Hi there, buddy. How are you?
How you doing, bro?
Right, yeah, not too bad yourself.
So, you all up for tonight?
Yeah, already, that's it.
I'll give you a little clue of what I'm cooking for you tonight. Basically, I'm taking sort of a few Mauritian ideas that you've mentioned to me in the past. I've read a few, and then I've kind of, as it's quite near to India, I've kind of mixed it with a few sort of, it's quite similar, aren't they? Sort of Indian spices and stuff. So I'm going to do like a little fish stew. So what, do you reckon little slices of lime, or?
Now, they are kingfish, that's the one. Comes morning, really
Do they have
good.
do they have the big, like, sail fin?
I'll show you one. Now, this is kingfish. Now, we got sailfish as well. We've got the silver like that. White tuna, they call it. See, look. When you steam them, it's really white. All yours.
Nice.
Oh, it's all done.
Yeah, I'll see you in about 3 or 4 hours.
Lovely, looking forward to seeing you.
And yeah, I've got a little surprise for you, George.
Lovely, looking forward to it.
You're going to
Thank
love
you
it,
very much.
mate.
Bye-bye now.
Right, so I've got some beautiful fruit here. And what I'm going to do is like big up the fruit salad, yeah, which is a really nice sort of refreshing dessert. And you can make this really, really easy for home. You can make sure everyone's going to love it. And there's a few little sort of chefy tips that can make this so easy and simple. First of all, I'm going to make a sort of stock syrup, which I need to get a pan and some sort of normal sugar, caster sugar. And I want 2 ladles of sugar, because basically you just need enough stock syrup to coat the fruit. But it's basically equal quantities or weight of sugar and water. Now I've got the sugar in there, so what I want essentially is 2 ladles of water. Now what I'm going to do to make it really easy for home is just put 1 in when we make the syrup, and then so we don't have to wait around and all the kind of chefy thing and let it cool down, I'm going to put ice in, and that will make it the right temperature to put on the fruit later. So what that's going to do is kind of protect the fruit and make it last for sort of like 2 or 3 days in your fridge, which is great. So I've got some lemongrass, and you just bash it, and what that does is kind of, it really just sort of smashes it, and it's going to let all that flavour come out. Now, the other thing that I'm going to put in here, which is also going to big it up, is vanilla, which is kind of my favourite spice. You just run your knife down the length, right? And then what you want to do is get your knife and just kind of run it down. And if you look at the end of the knife, you're going to get all that lovely black little seeds. It's almost like miniature sort of caviar, but it tastes, I mean, vanilla is just such a wonderful thing. And just scrape that on the side of the pan and just get that in. And also, don't waste the pod. So put the pod in there as well. And as soon as it's gone to the boil, it's turned into a syrup, and it will stay clear, and then we can turn it off. So first of all, I've got star fruit, and basically all these fruit, I mean, the thing about fruit salad is it can be from wherever you come from in the world. You know, we big up the star fruit. And then I've got some lime here, and all I'm going to do is just grate some of this zest and just squeeze a bit of that lime juice over the fruit. The lime's in there, the star fruit. I've got some kiwi fruit here, which is great. The kiwi is kind of like the Aston Martin of vitamins, I think, in fruit, because it's got the highest amount of vitamin C out of the lot. So, look at this, right? The stock syrup is boiled, right? And also you notice that it's gone clear, so I can turn the heat off now. And normally in the restaurant, you'd let that sort of steep and cool down for about half an hour. But the thing is, at home, you haven't got that sort of time. So what I do is just get some ice out the fridge. And this is the equivalent of our other ladle of water. And that will cool it down literally in 30 seconds, which means we can put it straight on the fruit. Because obviously if you put hot syrup on the fruit, it's going to kind of go a bit jammy and horrible. So that's really quick. Now here we've got the Chinese lanterns, which are really, really cool. I remember literally when I was 5 years old, my old man brought these back from market and just said, son, do you want one of these? And I went, what is it, Dad? And we used to call them Chinese lanterns. They've got a kind of slightly soury, sweet sort of flavour, so it's nice to get that juice in there. So these can go in. Passion fruit. I can't compare it to any other thing in the world, but all I know is that when I taste it, I go, oh, it's so nice. Now, that's going to give loads of flavour. Now, I'm going to do the mango now. And with a mango, you can see it's kind of an oval shape, yeah? So you get the kind of the core end, put it on its top like that, and you don't want to cut across it, you want to go with the flat side, and you'll feel the sort of the stone, and you can just move the bottom of the blade of your knife out, and what you do is you'll kind of skim. I've seen people hacking up mango and making a right fuss of it, but if you go down basically the length of it, you're laughing. That's the stone there, that's the shape of the stone. So, you know, I haven't really wasted much there at all. I can just squeeze that, and I get all that lovely juice out of it. Then just cut this sort of lobe of mango into sort of 6 like that, and then you just get your knife and you just sort of do that really, which is kind of simple. You just use your knife against the skin like that. So get the mango in, and again I've left them kind of chunky so they look quite sort of nice. I've got some pineapple. Just take the skin off and go down the middle of that, put it into quarters. Now the thing about pineapple is this core bit here is a bit sort of like woody, so just cut that out at an angle, chop up the pineapple into sort of chunks really, get it in. So I've got the lychee which I've peeled, and I'm just going to squeeze out the little pip, and again they'll be really, really good. And I'll tell you what, actually, tinned lychees are really, really good. So if you can't be bothered to get a bag and peel them, just get them in the tins. Right, so we've got lovely fruit there, and the stock syrup is fantastic. It's just like, it's almost like the infusion of flavours there, the lemon, the vanilla, and the sweetness is great. It's almost like a cup of tea, but I'm going to take out the lemongrass because that's not really edible, but I'm going to leave this pod in. So I'm just going to pour this, look at that, just so you can see all the little white dots. And so just stir it all up, and essentially that is your fruit salad. The only other thing that I'm going to do, right, which is kind of like an option extra, is if you get, I've got a bunch of coriander here, yeah, which is kind of normally associated with like curries and stir fries and stuff. But if you put this now in the juice, right, you shake it off, right, and then you put icing sugar over it, like that. Now what's going to happen is that that's going to kind of almost encrust it, right, and you can shake this off. And if you hang that in an oven for about an hour at sort of 180, or you could put it in like an airing cupboard or something like that. If you do that, what happens is, like a coriander, which is essentially like a kind of like a spicy herb, right? It's turned into a dessert, and it's crunchy and crisp, and it's like so cool. And that, at the last minute, with a bit of yogurt on the fruit salad and a bit of crumpled that, is wicked, and it almost makes it like a restaurant dish. So if you did that at home, I think your friends coming around would be really impressed. Right, all I'm going to do now is I've got some of these, they're like hairy lychees. They're not actually hairy, but they're spiny. And if you run a knife around it and then just squeeze it, basically it comes off like that. And a couple of those on the top will look really, really cool. There you go, all done. And literally in the fridge, that'll keep for 3 days. So you can kind of do it once a week and just have it for 3 days, or do it for the weekend on a Friday. So there you go, that's one thing done. Now, with regards to sort of, I'm going to do like a starter. I'm going to do a seafood soup, kind of with a sort of southern Indian twist, yeah? And this has got to be one of my favourite meals of all time, right? So I've got some coconut oil going in first, about sort of 4 tablespoons, and you've got that on a low heat, or sort of medium heat. And then what I'm going to do is start adding spices. And I've got some brown mustard seeds, which are basically, sounds kind of posh, but all they are is like, you know whole grain mustard that you get? It's the little black bits in that. So I want about 3 teaspoons of that, and they give a kind of nice little mustardy flavour, plus they look really, really good. Then you've got curry leaves, and again, curry leaves you can get from kind of ethnic delis and stuff like that. They look like little miniature bay leaves, yeah? And a nice handful of those you want. Take them off the stalk. Right, so give it a little stir. And also what's nice about the curry leaves is that when they cook, they crispen and they just explode in your mouth. And these are kind of the ingredients that are all non-perishable. They're not going to go sort of off. They're not going to be a waste of money. It's kind of something that you should really sort of invest in your kitchen. So I've got cumin seeds, and normally you pound them up, but in this recipe, just 2 teaspoons, just leave them whole. And I've got some garam masala, which is a very sort of Mauritian sort of spice. And I just want 1 sort of teaspoon of that. And that's kind of it's got quite a fruity sort of taste, you know. Then I've got chili powder. And very often in the kind of Mauritian Indian cooking, they use dried chili for that sort of almost smoky intensity. And then I'm going to use fresh ginger over there to give it that kind of sort of zingy fruitiness. What else we got? We've got chili powder, turmeric. Turmeric is pretty subtle, great colour, and it's kind of again quite a sort of fruity sort of spice. And because we've done it in layers, what's happening is every time I add something to the pan, it tastes completely different. So I'm going to start adding the fresh ingredients now. So I've got chilies over here, and also I'm working, you know, reasonably fast because it's all happening here and now. And that's what I kind of love about this cooking, because it is cooking. It's not like hiding something in a fridge or an oven, you know. It's really exciting. I've got ginger, which I'm just going to grate on sort of a fine grater. And literally, like that. Good thing about grating as well is sometimes ginger gets a little bit sort of stringy. And if you use a grater, then what it does is put all the lovely juice and flesh on the other side and keeps all the kind of horrible stringy stuff on your side. Get that in. And again, that's going to completely change the smell of the room. I'll turn the heater down a bit now. Now, garlic. Got about 8 cloves of garlic. Just sort of finely slice them. I think George is going to love this, actually. I feel quite kind of sorry for him, really, because when I was writing my first book, I had a big picture of him in the book, and it said Joe, because I'd only just met him. I'd known him about a year then, and I said, "What's your name?" Because he's got an accent, he went, "Joe." I went, "Oh, Joe." I went, "Hello, Joe," and he went, and he's so polite. He said, "Hello." I called him Joe for like a year. So in this book, I wrote Joe, and then for about 2 years after that, or even still now to this day, people go in the shop and go, "Hello, Joe," and his name's not Joe, it's George. So I just call him Joe for a laugh now. So garlic's in, beautiful flavour. Onions straight in, and that'll really cook down now to a sort of pulp. So what I do is just simmer that for. You can turn the heat up and stir it all together. Just let that sort of simmer for sort of 5 minutes, and the soup that I'm making, I mean, it's a really robust soup, I mean, because it's a seafood and rice soup, yeah? So I've got some rice, just use normal sort of basmati, and I'm not going to cook it separately or waste another pan. Just want 2 little handfuls of rice. Even though we're going to feed, what, sort of 10 people today, the rice expands, it becomes part of the dish, and, you know, it's almost, well, the Mauritians use rice quite a lot in soup. So, there we go. You can smell that, it's fantastic now. And I'm just going to put 2 glasses of water in. And that's just enough. And literally, we've hardly been cooking for very long at all. But yet, I know I can feed probably 10 or 12 people out of this. And it's taken me no time at all. So I've got my John Dory, or you could use any white fish. Just sprinkle that around the pan. I've got red mullet, which is kind of, you know, there's snapper and stuff like that, which are all part of the same sort of family. I'm just going to lay that across. And it looks so pretty, doesn't it? And then I've got the kingfish, which George was going absolutely mad about. He said it was like a white tuna, and it feels just like tuna, but obviously it's white. I'm going to put that on top. I've still got it on a high heat now. I'm going to just put the cockles on the top here. These are going to give fantastic flavour. And you could use any shellfish there. I've got some prawns here. I'm going to sprinkle those on top because fresh prawns only need a little bit of cooking, so the furthest away you can get them from the heat, the better, really. Now, what I'm going to do now, you put a pinch of salt, and I'm going to bring it to the boil. It's nearly there now. You can just see it's boiling around the edge there. I'm going to put the lid on top. I'm going to turn it right down, and I'm going to let that simmer for about 15 minutes. I reckon that's going to be the best soup he's ever eaten. So I'm going to go and chase up George, because the boy won't stop working. Georgie boy.
Oh, hi, buddy.
How you doing, mate?
Yes, fine, great, man.
Good, but I'm looking pretty good now. Half an hour?
Yes, fine, half an hour will do.
And I'm going to take it over there and serve.
Lovely, I've got the water cleaned up and I'm on my way out.
Lovely. Cool.
Okay,
see you in a bit.
Right, bye-bye, yep.
So, I would just like one of that fat orange one there. Hello, cat. So what we got for you? That is a goldfish. You like that? Right, lovely. I've got a goldfish. I'm going to call it Joe, and I'm going to give it to George so it'll make him feel better. So he can go there. Now, what I'm going to do is just check my soup, because I reckon it should be working. Look at that. Now, check this out, guys. You can see, look at that fish. Just break it up, flake it. We want that to happen, all right? Flake it up, and all the lovely little cockles have opened up. What I want to do to this now, I want to turn it right down to a low simmer, is I want to add some coconut milk. This is really fragrant, really coconutty, sort of really tropical tasting. Keep it nice and fresh. So just stir that through, and just bring that back to a simmer again. And I have a little taste now. It's important with this dish. Oh yeah. Oh, it's so good. Bit of lime. And just a touch of salt will be perfect. So, lid back on top. Now, main course, I've got some great cod, and I've sort of started to grate some coconut here. I've got a big tray, and what I've got here, this is an optional extra, but I've got some banana leaf, right? And basically, banana leaf is a banana leaf. But in the countries that they grow in, which is kind of all over the hot parts of the world, they use them to cook on, which is really interesting. So what I'm going to do is lay this in the tray. And I've never been to a country where you can't buy these in, because they come in with the fruit and veg and stuff like that. But if you can't get it, then don't worry about it. Just use greaseproof paper, which obviously will protect it and make it steam, but it just won't give it the extra flavour. And what I want to do is I want to layer up some really nice flavours. So to start with, I want to put some chilies. The nice thing about this as well is it's more than a recipe, it's a kind of principle. So like, if you like lemongrass or different spices or different herbs, or you could kind of go Italian and just sort of have, you know, basil and olives and tomatoes and stuff, you can still do that. So get your coconut and literally just sprinkle this over the tray like this. So I'm just going to grate this ginger. See, what's really funny is that George is one of a small handful of really great fishmongers in London. He actually keeps live fish, koi carp and stuff like that, downstairs as pets. So that's why I bought him the old goldfish, because I think he'll laugh. I want some coriander. You can just sort of roughly chop them like that and sprinkle them in. So it's almost like a carpet, a bed of wonderful, wonderful flavours. So get your fish, lay them tight into the tray, make them fit in nicely. Just season this with salt, and even though I put it on the top, because we're steaming, like, it's all going to get in there, it'll be fine. And then just a nice bit of olive oil on top. I've got 2 limes that I'm just going to cut in half. I'm not going to squeeze them, I'm just going to literally place them in the tray, and when they steam with it, what will happen is they go really sweet and jammy, and I'll just squeeze the whole lot over it and loads more juice will come out, so it's a good little tip. So fold this over, push it down like that, and basically you've got like a very pretty, strange looking thing, but we put that in an oven at about sort of 400 right? Or, you know, sort of not hottest, but sort of one down from hottest oven. And you put it in there for about 15 minutes, right? You take it out, leave it for 5 minutes, and it will be the most tasty thing you'll ever eat in your life. So, that's it. Oh, I'll tell you what I've forgotten. The coriander. Have a look at that. Ah! Look at that. This is my coriander, right? And this is basically what I'll do. Because it's covered in sugar, you can just like crumble it. So that I'm going to put over the fruit salad. Just keep it there. So we're laughing. Now, I suppose I better have a clean down, really. How am I going to get all this over there? Lovely to meet all the family, right? I hope you've had a lovely lunch, right? And I think to the best fishmonger in London.
Oh, Jimmy.
Right?
David, very kind of you.
Now,
Oh, well.
you want to steam it, roll it in a nice...